to the Rensselaer Admissions student webinar. We're here answering your questions. So if you have any questions about this whole thing, just type them away and then we'll see them and we will be here to answer them. So to start, I'm Cassie Smith. I am a senior aeronautical engineering student from the great state of New Jersey, and I'll be graduating in December. We also have Luke.
Hi, everyone. My name is Luke Kathleen. I actually just graduated with my bachelor's in mechanical engineering, but I'm staying for the co-terminal program, so the 5-year master's. I'm getting my master's in mechanical engineering as well, starting this summer, and going to do my next semester in the fall. I'll graduate in December.
Am I next?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, I'm Kate. I am from Vermont, still very close to Canada. I'm going into my 5th year of architecture, which is hopefully my last one. And when I'm not a tour guide, I work in the RPI School of Architecture woodshop, so making sure that everyone's limbs stay attached to their bodies using power tools. And when I have more time during the semester, I like to participate in the pet band and in the RPI players.
I'm Olivia.
Olivia, are you here?
A junior now. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Can you hear me? Oh.
Yeah.
We can hear
I'm a
you.
computer science and cognitive science dual major. I'm a rising junior, if you missed that. And I'm from New Jersey, and I play on the club volleyball team, and I'm involved in Greek life.
And lastly, my name is Charlie. I am a rising senior in industrial and management engineering from Baltimore, Maryland, and I am on the RPI men's varsity soccer team.
Awesome. I forgot to say what I'm involved in. So I'm in the pet band. I'm a tour guide and I'm in a leadership program. Luke, do you want to?
All right, yeah, sure. So I also am a tour guide. Surprise, surprise. I'm also involved. I used to be a TA for the computer-aided design course. I'm involved with the research pretty heavily. I'm continuing the research I did from undergrad for my master's. I also was involved with the Destination Imagination program here on campus and Engineers Without Borders. Oh, and Rensselaer Music Association. I have a small group that's kind of affiliated with that as well.
Awesome. So if you have any questions for anyone specifically or questions just about RPI in general, please type them in the box and we will see them and we will answer them. We do have the questions you submitted ahead of time that we're just going to jump into right now. The first one being, what is the reason you chose a technical school over a liberal arts school or a more well-rounded university? Is anyone inclined to answering this question?
I can go. I did look at a handful of liberal arts schools that did offer engineering, and there are a few out there. But for me, what kind of drove me to choose RPI was that it had a lot more resources, a lot more research opportunities, a lot more access to co-ops or internships. I did a co-op last summer into the fall, and when I interviewed at this co-op, I did an on-site interview. I interviewed with 6 people there. 5 out of 6 of them were RPI alums. So RPI has a pretty deep connection with engineering, a lot of larger engineering firms and even smaller ones too. So having those kinds of resources is something that I don't think the liberal arts schools quite have to the extent that we do.
Yeah, I would definitely second what Luke said. So for my part, I knew that I wanted to go work in consulting. So the choices were essentially between an engineering degree or a business degree. And the reason that I wanted to come to RPI was to get a degree where I did have a solid technical background and it was really rooted in problem solving capabilities. So that way, when I went to an environment, I could learn the business lingo, I could pick up on things like that, but I would have that sort of mathematical, scientific foundation to base everything else off of. And much like Luke, at the firm that I just did an internship at and received a full-time offer, I found a great RPI alumni network.
I think everyone has that similar experience with me. If I knew I always wanted to go into STEM, something with science, math, or engineering. And even if I didn't want to continue with engineering, I wanted to be at a school that also had math and science. So there were still other options for me, even at a technical school. Okay, let's move on here. What's the community at Rensselaer like? And then we'll jump into the questions on the side. All
right, I can go, I guess. So I would say that I mean, in high school, and I think a lot of everyone else here will have a similar experience. In high school, I got mostly A's. I did really well. I worked hard. Not everyone was in the same boat there in high school. But now here at RPI, everyone is in the same boat. Everyone came from a really strong academic background, did really well in high school. So a lot of really smart people. A lot of, you could say, tough competition. But on the other hand, it's not really a competitive culture at all, which is really nice. Everyone's collaborative. Most of my classes have some sort of team project, or at the very least, there are study groups. So yes, you have to work hard, and it's definitely a step up from high school for sure. But everyone's on the same team here. We all, even the professors, everyone wants you to succeed.
Can people hear any of us now? I can hear Luke. Can people hear me?
I can't see Charlie.
Okay, we got one yes
can't
that
either.
people can hear. Okay. All right, so we're okay.
Okay, I can't hear Charlie either. I can see his green. Oh, there we go. You're back visually.
All right, sorry, I had to make a quick detour. My bad.
Okay,
No worries.
people say that they can hear everyone but Luke.
All right, I'll refresh. I'll come
Okay.
back.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. Oh, someone else can't hear anyone. Oh no. Okay, we're gonna
I can hear everybody on here
Okay.
at this point.
Well,
As
that's
we
because
go-
you might have to refresh. If you can't hear anybody, it might be you.
It might be you, not us.
As we go through, if you can't see or hear people, just let us know and we will work through it. But I think we're okay to continue on here.
Hopefully that's better on my end. Although I can't.
Well, I can
Okay,
see
now I
Charlie.
can see Olivia. I can't see Charlie though.
Okay, let's keep going here. Okay.
I'll refresh
Can
one more.
anyone discuss housing or dorm settings at RPI? Are on-campus dorms guaranteed for freshmen, first year only, or all 4 years? How dorm and room assignments work? Please elaborate.
That's a lot of questions. I'll take some of them, and then someone else can hop on. So housing is guaranteed your freshman and your sophomore year, as well as your summer arch semester. So you will be required to live on campus during
Sorry,
that.
what was the question?
Housing.
And I can't. Okay, I can't. Is Kate? If Kate was responding, I can't hear her.
Can anyone else hear me?
I can hear you, Kate.
Yeah. Yep, we all got you.
I'm going to keep talking, Luke, and then I'll stop. Okay,
Just
so you are
let me try
required to
again.
live on campus for 5 semesters. After that, it is no longer guaranteed, but typically if you do want to live on campus your junior and your senior year, you can. So we have 13 freshman residence halls, 10 of which are on Freshman Hill, so you're all fairly close together. And they're going to be a combination of floor-style baths, so you have one room that you share with one roommate, or suite style, so that would be usually a triple that you share a bathroom with the next triple over. So you have less people in your bathroom, but that sometimes means you have to share the shower more carefully. What were some other questions that they asked about housing? How is it selected? Does anyone else want to answer?
Sure, I can take the housing selection question. So there are 3 ways to get a roommate at RPI. You can be assigned a random roommate. They will do that. That's the option that you want to go. You can also use the RPI sort of housing portal to fill out like a form, and you can find people who have similar interests to yours. You'll answer all sorts of questions, everything from what kind of music do you like, how late do you stay up, are you clean or messy? Personally, I'm incredibly messy, so like, gotta be honest. And then it'll match you up with people who have similar answers, and then you can chat with them and then select a room together. Lastly, though, if you do meet someone, whether you know someone going in, a potential teammate, or someone you meet in one of the Facebook or Snapchat groups that I'm sure you guys will make once you get in, you can also go to RPI and say, I'd like to room with this specific person, and then you guys will select your room together.
If anyone has any more questions about housing, please just put them in and we'd be happy to answer them. You do have to live on campus for your first 5 semesters. I'm not sure if that was elaborated on, but that includes your freshman year, your sophomore year, and the summer you're on campus between your sophomore year and junior year doing our summer arch program. After that, you're more than welcome to move off campus. A lot of people do move on to off-campus apartments with their friends, anywhere from 1 other person to like 7 other people, or there is on-campus housing for juniors and seniors. You can also live on campus if you so want. Charles asks if we have any veterinarian majors, and if we don't, can a pre-med track lead to veterinarian school as a profession? So no, not that I know of, that we have a specific veterinarian major or track. We do have a pre-med track. I don't know if, Olivia, you want to elaborate on that? No? Okay. So our pre-med track.
Yeah, I can.
Okay.
Oh, I can. I wanted to be a vet for a little while. I don't anymore. We don't have a specific track, but if you apply and you get in, you can work with your advisor and they'll go through all the requirement courses you have to take in order to get into veterinary school and work with you to make sure that you can pick a major that will have all of those courses in there so that way you can apply. If that makes sense.
We also have a physician scientist program. If you want to go to the MD route, there are other avenues you can go to continue on to other professional grad schools. Okay. All right, we're going to keep moving here. And if you can't hear us, I'm sorry. We're working through it. Okay. Is the option for a 5-year bachelor and master's degree worth it, considering the strain on time and energy it may give you? Let's hear from Luke on that one.
Yeah, perfect. So, I mean, obviously, I am doing the program, so I do think it's worth it. The reason for that, one of the main benefits to it is by staying your 5th year, you can keep any merit or financial aid that you got for your undergraduate years. So it does save a lot of money because oftentimes for masters, you do have to pay a tuition. Usually, if you go for PhD, then you get kind of paid to be a TA or RA. But for just masters, you usually have to pay. So by having that discounted price from merit and or financial aid is pretty helpful. Also for me, like I said earlier, I'm staying with the same research group that I did undergraduate research with. So it was a very smooth transition. I was able to get started on the work I was going to do for my thesis just the senior year. So the transition was really nice for me there. And I do know people too who have decided to major in something different for their master's degree, for their 5-year master's. And even still, the transition is very smooth because the professor you're working with for undergrad research when you're an undergrad can definitely help refer you to someone else in a different department if you decide to change majors or get your master's in something that you didn't have your bachelor's in. Obviously, I mean, in terms of strain on time and energy, if you don't want to invest the extra time to get a master's, I mean, you don't need to. A lot of people get jobs or just go right into industry after their bachelor's, and that's totally understandable. But if you do want a master's, I would say that this is a very streamlined way to
just
do
to
it.
sort of comment what Luke was saying from a different angle. One of the nice things about RPI's sort of 5-year plans is that they're very flexible and you're not locked into them. So for example, I was until very recently a part of our sort of accelerated 5-year bachelor's plus MBA program. And so I'd gone through the whole application process, but you're not actually committed to it until you start taking classes. And I sort of discovered that it actually wasn't the best thing for my field. And for consulting, it's common to get a couple years of work experience first. So I was able to sort of transition to a different pathway that just came up for me without being penalized or anything like that. I was not locked into anything. But if, it is something that you want to do and you find the right field for it, I think it's very achievable. And they sort of help you carefully sort of speed up your curriculum so that you're not overwhelmed during your 5 years.
I think it's worthy to mention also that looking at the strain on time and energy, doing a 5 years bachelor's and master's, if you go to another school for your master's, it will be at least a year and a half, if not 2 years. So if you're looking at financials, strain on time and energy, if you really just want to get your master's and get out, then I would consider just like the time and the energy in that form as well. Okay. Yeah, like that. Okay, what would each of us say? Let's just go down the line here. What is the best part about going to RPI? And let's try not to repeat, which is going to be hard. I know. Charlie, do you want to start if you have one?
Sure. Yeah, I can absolutely start. For me, it's the RPI community and the other people on campus. I made my decision to come here when I came to Accepted Students Day. And as soon as I stepped on campus, I could immediately tell that my people were here. Everyone here is engaged. Everyone is passionate about something, whether it's their field, their hobby. Everyone's very nice, helpful, compassionate, while also wanting to have a really good time and have a great college experience. So there are some great people here, and I think that's the best part for me.
I would always agree with what Charlie said. Just the people are so passionate, and it's exciting to be around others who have the same ideas as me. But also, I really love the faculty and the staff and the professors. They all really care about you as a person, about your interests and what you're studying. And they all get to know you. My very first class was an introduction to engineering class. It was known as statics, if you will. And the first class, my professor asked us to write down 2 facts about us so that he could learn our names and get to know us, even in a classroom full of maybe 50, 60 people. And I felt like he actually knew who I was. And now to this day, we're still friends. And he'll see me on campus. He's like, "You're still giving tours, right?" I'm like, "Yeah." So it's just forming that community, not just with your peers and your students and other students, but with your faculty advisors as well. Kate?
So I agree with both Cassie and Charlie. Obviously, those would have been my answers as well. But as we're not doing repeats, I'm going to jump into the Archie answer, which is all the buildings are really, really nice. It's a really beautiful campus to be on. I don't know if any of you have had the chance to tour yet. Hopefully, we'll be able to do those soon, and I highly recommend coming. But we do have a virtual tour that you can use as well to kind of get a feel for things. But we do have really, really cool buildings and kind of an array of different styles that all kind of go together. Except for Folsom, but it's okay. But the Experimental Media and Performing Arts Center was built by Grimshaw, which if you're an Archie is a really big deal. And that's a really cool place to be able to study, both in any major just to be there, but also as an architecture major, I can use that building specifically as a case study. And having resources like that on campus is really helpful.
Is it my turn?
Yes.
Yeah, so I agree with Charlie and Cassie as well. But something that I like is our relationship with the city of Troy. We have a really good relationship with them, and our university supports the city, and the city supports us. And our downtown's adorable, and it has really good food. I spend all of my money that I make working on downtown. So I think it's just a really great community to be in, and it's really accessible because we have shuttles that go down there, but you can also walk. It's really not far. So that's my favorite part.
All right, so you guys are leaving me with the hard part because you guys all stole my answers. But anyway, one thing that I will mention that hasn't been talked about yet, I kind of talked about it earlier, but just I guess the resources in terms of classes and research. But what I will bring up too is I actually came into RPI as a biomedical engineering major, and I really thought that's what I wanted to do. But then during the spring semester of my freshman year, I took Intro to Cell Bio, realized that this isn't for me. So what I decided to do instead was, I didn't know what to do at first, but there were a lot of advisors on campus. There's a hub, one hub for each of the 5 schools. So I went to the hub for the School of Engineering, talked to some advisors there. And actually at the same time, that same semester, I was taking material science and computer-aided design, and I loved those courses. So that's how I decided to switch over to mechanical engineering. And what I will say is that transition was very smooth. I got a lot of help in terms of being able to figure out my options. I knew I still wanted to kind of contribute to the medical device industry. So realizing that I had an option for mechanical there too was really nice. And the research I do is on the biomedical side of mechanical engineering. So if I went to some other school and maybe more rigid and locked, maybe harder to switch majors, I may not be able to do research that's so interdisciplinary. So having those options, having it being a school that focuses so heavily on engineering and has so many options within the School of Engineering. I mean, obviously other things as well, but for me, engineering is pretty important. So having all those options has been
I love that.
huge
We
for
all
me.
came up with something. That's so nice. Okay, we're keeping rolling here, so keep the questions coming. Okay. The Arch program is relatively new. Have any of you experienced the art program yet? Summer school and semester job, how was it? I'm going to hand this over to Charlie.
Yeah, that would be me. So I was part of the first full class that went through the Arch. So I just finished my Arch away semester. I would say that my experience was fairly positive with the Arch, actually. Summer class I found it actually to kind of be fun to be up here during the summer. You got to do some things in sort of the capital area that you wouldn't necessarily get to do on the weekends. My friends and I would go to there's a man-made beach around here that we would go to. we'd go up to Saratoga and the sort of concert area and racetrack that's up there. And then my away semester, I was able to, like, through the career fair and with help from the CCPD, which is our essentially job center, was able to find myself a really cool opportunity in Boston. So I moved there for a few months and was living on my own, had a nice little apartment in a beautiful city, doing a job that I ended up finding, fascinating and really engaging. Definitely it was a lot of work to sort of stay vigilant and focused for 4 straight semesters and then go into a job and internship experience. But, overall, I've come out of it with a really great career opportunity and had a lot of fun while I was doing it.
Olivia, do you want to share anything about your arch experience so far?
I got out of the summer arch. I actually have an internship this year instead.
There you have it. So there's also other options, if you get a summer internship opportunity or if the arch doesn't fit with your curriculum or your athletic season, there are exemptions to the arch program as well. And
actually, what I will talk about too, I didn't actually do the arch, but I did do a 6-month-long co-op. And I was able to do that and still graduate on time because I brought an AP credit. So what the arch is here for is it's for people to still get those opportunities without needing them to bring an AP credit, which would have been really nice. And the co-op, obviously, how the co-op will help me will be more clear once I actually get a full-time job. But it helped me quite a lot with my capstone project. During my co-op, I did a lot of computer-aided design for plastic injection molded parts. And it turns out the capstone project I had right when I got back from co-op was very similar to that. So I was able to lead my team. We did really well. I got an A in the class. So being able to get a longer experience like that is tremendously helpful. And the arch makes it so much easier.
I also did a co-op without doing the arch program. And now that's why I'm a semester off my graduation. I should have graduated a couple weeks back, but instead I'll be here for an extra semester. So it just helps you still have this awesome opportunity while graduating with your class and staying on track. Okay. For computer science, what are the companies and internships you can get? When can you apply for internships? Olivia, do you want to share?
Yeah. So the great thing about computer science is you can really work for any company. In like today's world, every company uses some sort of technology everyday job. So you can really work for every company you want. I personally have kind of taken more of things. So I've been working for S&P Global. They're really big in like the financial industry with stock market and stuff like that. So I interned for them last summer. After my freshman year, I did a software engineering internship, and now I'm going back summer, except I'm doing a data scientist program. So something a little different because software engineering wasn't really my passion. I'm more into this, so I'm excited to have that opportunity. I applied for after my freshman year in February, and then I was invited back this summer. So I didn't have to apply again. I apply usually in the fall or the spring. Not everyone gets an internship after their freshman year, and that's okay. If you bring an AP credit, especially as like you bring in like Science 1, and you do start to take upper level computer science courses your sophomore year. In semester freshman year, you are more likely to get an internship just because you'll have more experience in the fields that people look for. But most computer science students have no problem getting that co-op after summer arch because you have up to 4,000 level coursework at that point. So we're looking forward to bringing you on because you can be a really valuable team member.
I think there's a whole list of the companies that people get jobs and internships from on our RPI CCPD, which is our Career and Counseling and Professional Development Center for Career and Professional Development. And so you can go onto that website and there's a whole list of all these places that RPI students actually go to after leaving RPI. One of my friends graduated last December and she's working at Bank of America with her comp sci degree. And I have another friend at FactSet. So they're both more in the financial world, but they're both doing computer science work for them. Okay. Charlie, you wanted to add?
I was just going to say, I saw like another question about sort of like getting internships in general that I was going to speak to, since we were on the topic. And I was just sort of saying that like the most important thing is to do your research in terms of like finding companies, first of all, that you want to work at, and then utilizing the career fairs that we have in the fall and the spring. So what I'll usually do before the career fairs is I'll look at every company that's coming, and then I'll apply ahead of time to all the companies that I'm interested in. And so I'll fill out the application, cover letter, all that. And then when the companies come to the career fair, I have the opportunity to both talk to them and ask questions, but also follow up on my application. And it's a really good sign for them that you've applied ahead of time, and maybe they even sort of know who you are. You can talk to the recruiters, get a relationship, and then they'll go back and look at your application knowing who you are. The CCPD does do a really good job supporting people. So, for example, I usually go there before the career fairs to have my resumes looked over. They also have a spot on campus to host interviews for after the career fairs. So that's sort of how I got my Archaway experience. I applied online, talked to people at the career fair, then actually waited a couple months, was called into an interview. They brought me out to their on-site location in Boston, interviewed, and got the job the next day. So it just, as long as you sort of stay on top of things and do your research ahead of time, getting co-ops and internships from RPI is very, very doable.
I would just add on there that my co-op experience was with NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, and they come recruit from RPI every fall. So they come to campus every October, they have an info session, and then have on-campus interviews the very next day. And then after that, there's a couple more phone interviews and different processes to go through after that. But there's so many companies who come specifically for RPI students.
My co-op was the same way. I won't elaborate too much, but yeah, I got my co-op through the career
Can
fair
I add,
as well.
Cassie?
Please.
So for the School of Architecture, we have our own career fair because we're 5% of the school. So having us openly or like overly represented in the big career fair would not make sense. So we do have our own that we have, but our professors are also really invested in helping us get jobs. So for me, I didn't go to the career fair for us this year because they're usually in the Northeast area, and I wanted to go to Nevada, which is where I am right now. And I told a professor of mine that, and he was like, well, I'll help you. Let's see if we can find connections and that sort of thing. And ultimately, I did find my job by myself, but he was willing to help, which I thought was really cool.
Awesome. Okay, I'm going to scroll back up to some more questions here. Can I major in aerospace engineering? If not, what are the options from aeronautical engineering? So our degree is under aeronautical engineering. I've heard talk of potentially adding an aerospace degree, but aerospace is like the big term. Then underneath it, there's aeronautical and astronautical. But the general term that people use is aeronautical. So it's okay to have both on your resume. For the most part, it means the same thing. I'm more interested on the space side of things, but I still have an aeronautical engineering degree. So there's a couple of different. I'm not frozen, am I?
No.
Okay. So there's a couple different paths you can go through.
you're good.
Aeronautical, we have fixed wings, that's like airplanes, commercial. We have rotor wing, and that's helicopters, and then also space flight. So that's when I took space flight mechanics. I've taken space vehicle design and more on the space side of classes rather than the other side. So there's a couple different tracks you can take, but it's all under that aeronautical engineering degree. They might add an aerospace engineering degree just to more easily compartmentalize, break it up, but we'll see if that happens. I'm not really sure on the status of that. Okay. Can I take both undergrad classes and graduate during my last semester of my bachelor if coterm? Luke.
Yes. The short answer to that is yes. And actually, it's recommended to do that. Because, as Cassie said earlier, most master's programs are 2 years. So the fact that you're only doing your formal master's after you graduate with your bachelor's in 1 year does make it a little bit more of an accelerated process. But exactly what you're mentioning, if you start taking classes early and apply those classes to your grad degree instead of your undergrad degree, you just happen to take it at the same time as undergrad classes, that'll make it a lot easier to do the coterminal process. So what I did is I took 2 classes that counted towards my master's during my undergraduate years. And what I've recommended too, there are a lot of graduate classes that are kind of cross-listed. They have an undergrad version and a grad version, and both the undergrads and grads go to the same lecture, but the grads have maybe extra homework or a different project or something like that. So the 2 classes I did take were in that format, which made it a really nice transition for me because it was very similar to my undergrad classes in terms of lectures and homework and everything. We just had a little bit more work, a little bit harder exams, things like that. So yeah, short answer to that question, definitely take graduate classes your senior year, sometimes even junior year.
Awesome. For the pre-med route, how would you describe the rigor of the courses? Is RPI the best pick if you want to go into the sciences? Does anyone have experience with the pre-med track?
I haven't.
Not directly. I mean, I do have a friend.
Yeah, same.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
I have friends who are in the pre-med route. You take the same biology courses that a biology major would take. A lot of them are biology majors, so your pre-med route isn't necessarily too different from a bio or a chem major. You're just taking specific courses that med schools require, and they're courses that are available to all. So it's around the same level of difficulty that you'd find if you were just a bio major who wasn't pre-med.
And I have a good friend who's biomedical engineering doing the pre-med route. And again, very similar process, maybe a few additional classes that are kind of outside the traditional curriculum. Like I know, for example, biomedical engineers don't have to usually take organic chemistry, but if you're in the pre-med route, you do. But there is a template if you're going into the pre-med route for biomedical engineering. And if you declare this interest, you'll be assigned an advisor specifically for the pre-med track to make sure you're on track, make sure you're taking the right courses, make sure you're not taking a semester that's too overwhelming. So yes, you can do it in many different majors. Obviously, yeah, biology, chemistry is maybe a little bit easier, but definitely still easily doable in biomedical engineering.
Awesome. Is RPI still requiring the Casper test for the physician scientist program? What are the other requirements that have changed or stayed the same? They are the same as our RPI user login has said here. We are still requiring the Casper test. And if you have more questions on that, feel free to email the admissions staff and we'd be happy to give you more details on that process. Okay. What types of social activities or clubs do we have at RPI? Does everyone want to answer this? I think so. Let's go down the line. Charlie, do you want to go first?
Sure. So I guess obviously the sort of primary activity that I'm involved with is soccer on campus. So we do have varsity sports. We have, I think, 23 different men's and women's varsity sports. All of our teams are Division III and compete in the Liberty League, with the exception of men's and women's hockey, which are Division I and compete in the ECAC, or East Coast Athletic Conference. That's a big social activity for a lot of people on campus. I think we have a few pep band members here that always play at the hockey games. So those are a lot of fun for the student body to go to. Our men's hockey team had its best year in 20 years this year. So there were a lot of people at games getting very rowdy and yelling at opposing teams, which is a lot of fun. So yeah, those are a couple things that I sort of spend a lot of my time on. Obviously I love playing soccer here. We had a great year. Went all the way to the NCAA Elite Eight, in the top 10 nationally. So that definitely takes up a lot of my time.
Yes, I am one of the people in the pep band, and we get to play at all the men's and women's ice hockey games and also the football games. So it's a pretty busy fall and spring and winter for us usually. There's all these games that we go to. So that keeps me busy with rehearsals and different events with the pep band. But also, I like to go to a lot of the improv shows on campus. We have an improv group, and they'll have shows either Friday or Saturday around once a month. And I'll go with a group of friends, and they're just so fun. They're free. You just go and you get to watch your peers perform, and it's really awesome. Kate, do you want to share?
Sure. So one day I made the mistake of telling my friend Cassie here that I play the trombone, and now I'm in the pep band. It's pseudo though. I don't go without Cassie. But I like the pep band because it's one of those things where you can adjust your schedule and go when you have time versus if you don't have time, you don't go, and that's cool. And the players is kind of similar. So if you have a more heavy semester and you don't have time to go participate in tech crew, which is what I do, then you just don't. And it's fine, which is good. So you don't feel the pressure. If you really have a busy semester, you're not, over extenuating yourself or not having enough free time to just kind of chill, which is sometimes helpful. And then I'm not in an a cappella group because I can't sing, but I'm like around them a lot, and they're a good time too. We have 4 different a cappella groups on campus. Their shows are not free, but they're like $2, so they're not a big investment in your life. And they're definitely a good group to be around.
I play on the club volleyball team, so club sports is a really great option if you're worried about the time commitment that like varsity sport entails. We practice twice a week. We get like 3 personal misses a semester too, which is really because if you have a really bad week or a ton of one week, you could just be like, hey, like I'm gonna stay home and study tonight, and they'll just let you go, no questions asked. We also practice late at night, so it doesn't interfere with anything. And we also have a policy that if you like the next day, you can leave halfway just because we value our sleep. Also a member of a Greek organization, which is a really great way to get involved with a big community on campus. And I joined it for like the philanthropy aspect. I volunteer in downtown Troy with young boys and girls. I tutor them and I provide like after school entertainment for paying parents. So that's a big time commitment for me.
Yes.
Oh, am I next?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. All right. All right. So there are 3 clubs that I participated in. I'll try to be brief so it doesn't take too long for each of them. First one, Rensselaer Music Association. I know music was touched on a little bit, but my path to RMA was a little bit less traditional. During my freshman year, so actually I played drums, and during my freshman year, right across the hall from me were friends who played bass and guitar. So we decided, hey, let's start a band. My first thought is to bring my drum set into my dorm room and practice there. But as you can imagine, my roommate wasn't the biggest fan of that idea. So we decided to look into other options. And that's where RMA came in. We quickly found out that we could become a small group within RMA, which could mean we have reserved practice spaces, a drum set, other amps, practice equipment, and then also recording equipment. And people in RMA could help us record things. So we definitely took advantage of all that. We had a really great time with that. So we were able to do that pretty easily. And that was really great if you want to take a little bit less of a traditional route within music. Another club I was a part of is Destination Imagination. This is something that I participated in middle school. And so when I came to RPI and I realized we had a club for that here, it was pretty cool. It was exciting. So for those of you who don't know what it is, it's a program where I guess the best way to explain it is in like November or October, there are a series of 5 or 6 challenges that come out. So each team can pick a challenge to work on all the way up until March. There's a state tournament. April, there's a regional tournament, or sorry, vice versa. Regional tournament first, then state tournament. That makes more sense. And then in May, there's a global tournament in either Knoxville, Tennessee, or Kansas City, Missouri. So actually last year, our RPI team made it to globals. We went to Kansas City. I was a treasurer at the time, so I did a lot of planning with the student union. And by the way, the student union was really helpful in partially funding our trip and just helping out with the logistics and planning. So that worked out very well, went very smooth. So that was a lot of fun. Third club I was a part of, mostly during my freshman and sophomore year, just because of time commitments. It couldn't really stick around too long, was Engineers Without Borders. And at the time, there were 2 international projects going on, a solar electric project in Panama and a water collection and distribution project in Nicaragua. So the way that works is throughout the year, we split into groups working on one of these 2 projects, and we kind of work on the solutions, work on this problem in general. And then once a year, we send representatives from our club down to the sites to actually implement what we've been working on. I didn't end up traveling again because I wasn't super committed to the club, just because other things kind of got ahead of me. But being involved with some of those projects is a really great way to get some experience, even as early as freshman year. Great thing to put on your resume, really rewarding experience too. So yeah, a lot of different options for clubs and activities.
I also want to elaborate because there's a couple more questions about clubs and activities. We do have our Rensselaer Student Union, which is where all of our clubs are housed under. That's where they get their funding. That's where you can have club meeting spaces. And if you want to learn more about all the over 200 or 250 clubs we have on campus, you can just go to the website, or you can follow them on Instagram, RPI Union. They will follow you back, and they post all kinds of things and events happening every week. And while I'm at it, I also want to plug our admissions Instagram, RPI Admissions. Please check it out. You can ask more questions there. You can DM us. We do takeovers all the time. There's the link. It was just posted down in there. Go follow us. Give us a shout out. But we also have a question up here still about varsity soccer for Charlie.
Okay.
You see that one?
There's kind of two in there. So in terms of balancing sports and academics, it's definitely like something you have to work at, but it's also something that's very achievable. I found that coaches and professors are both very willing to work with you in terms of conflicts that you may have, as long as you take the initiative and communicate ahead of time. So like, for example, we do have to miss class for away games and road trips and things like that. And I'm always sure to reach out to my professors both at the beginning of the class and a couple weeks before it happens, just to let them know that I'll be out, to try and get ahead of work, things like that. And then communicating with your coach if you have like a big test week or anything like that, you may need to miss a practice. That's something you have to be on top of as well. In terms of the actual time commitment, so there are, during the season, which runs from about August to November, we have practice 6 out of every 7 days, either practice or games. You get 1 day off from the NCAA a week. It's usually Sunday. And then in season, every other day will either be a practice or a game. Out of season, probably 2 or 3 times a week, we will do conditioning and weightlifting. Up at sort of Ecav has a weight room that a lot of the athletes use. You'll go there for team lifts. And then there's sort of an expectation that you're also playing year round. So we play intramural, indoor soccer, and then we sort of train together throughout the off season. So that's kind of the time commitment for varsity. It is a lot, not so much that you can't do academics, but I think like Olivia said earlier, if you are looking for a little bit less of a time commitment, club is a great option. There you practice probably 2 or 3 times a week, play games only on weekends, still get to compete against other schools. So it's really just all about finding the right sort of pathway for you. You can do them if you're an engineering major. We have engineering majors, we have computer science majors. That's totally fine, just as long as you're vigilant about getting your academic work done.
And the pep band is not auditioned. A lot of, not at all. If you want to play an instrument, I can barely play the tuba, but I still play the tuba in the pep band. So if you want to play some music, come on out to the pep band. We have a couple events before the semester starts in August where you can just pick up an instrument, pick up some music, and you'll play with us. And then it's also not mandatory or required at all throughout the rest of the semesters. It's just optional. If you want to come to a game, you can come and play an instrument. If not, you can still hang out with us at the game or just go to the game and watch. Does anyone know about anything of the dance curricula? And then we'll go back up.
Yeah, my best friend's actually the president of the dance club for the upcoming year. So the dance club is like a group of classes that you can like ballet, hip hop, contemporary, like anything you want. And then they have a recital in the spring in the big theater in MPAC, and everyone has like invites their friends and their family to go. So you take this class, you learn a whole bunch of different dances in the fall and a bunch of different techniques, and then in the spring you work towards learning a dance for the recital. I was supposed to go this spring, but it got canceled. So I'm going to go back to her recital. And then we also have a competitive dance team. I believe they do hip hop and pom, and they dance at like the football games and the basketball. They go to Daytona Beach in Florida to compete at like the level. That's more of like time. Like I think 3 practices a week, whereas the dance club just has class. I think it's like 1 class a week. You can up for as many classes. And they're not 100% mandatory. Like if you're busy, you don't have to go that week.
We have 2 ambassadors who are on the dance team, the more competitive time commitment one. So if you want to learn more about that one, follow us on Instagram and you can talk to them through there. Or you can send us an email and we'll hook you up with them. Luke, there's a question about Engineers Without Borders here if you want to snag that one.
Oh, sure.
And then we'll go back up. I promise people we're not skipping your questions.
Can you join if you're not
the
an
question?
Yeah.
Oh, I see it. Okay. You do have to do borders even if you're not an engineering major. Yes, absolutely. In fact, we encourage that. I know it's kind of a misleading name. We say Engineers Without Borders, but we've always kind of tried to plug for students outside of the engineering school to be a part of this club as well. The club is funded and kind of runs through the union as opposed to the School of Engineering. So yes, definitely. And having other backgrounds is really helpful to us. So like I said, we actually want people outside of engineering as well to bring some different backgrounds.
Okay, we're going back up, everybody. Okay. For business and management, are there many internships around the area? Does RPI have a good business school despite being mainly an engineering school?
I can kind of take. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Olivia.
Let's go, Olivia. Then Charlie.
I worked business company this summer. Yeah, I worked for a business company this summer, just by not being a business major. But I found a lot of like helpful when I was there. Really looking for students that had tech background that are also business majors. So RPI has a business program that involves learning different computer science and really bring business into kind of the technology world, which is where most business companies are now. So when they look at you graduating an engineering STEM school, they actually appreciate it. And those are the types of students I hire. Like on the first day of my internship, we all sat down in a room and I was all the and they told them, if you haven't taken a computer science course and you're not to graduate and you have time, you're just going to go and register for one, because those are the types of students we're looking to hire, and that's already built into the business management program at RPI. So it's definitely an advantage to you.
Charlie, do you want to add anything?
Sure. I think Olivia covered most of it. Businesses, like the traditional businesses that you would think of, love STEM majors. I mean, they just cannot get their hands on enough STEM majors. And RPI does have a very good reputation within most industries. Sort of lay people may not recognize it. People who aren't familiar with the fields may not recognize it in the same breath as like Harvard or MIT. But what I've found, at least from my personal experience, and I'm sure you guys would back this up, is that people in your industries know exactly what RPI is and exactly know the value of an RPI degree and are really eager to bring you on board when they sort of find out that that's where you come from.
Absolutely. Our business school is also ranked in like nationally or statewide at least, ranked, and we have so many people who come to RPI for business or management, and they just go on to being so successful. So definitely email us to learn more about it, and we have more ambassadors who are business management majors who'd be happy to tell you about their internship experience and how they feel about being at a mainly engineering school, although I don't think they mind it too much. Okay. What opportunities are there for machine learning and AI at RPI? What specific research is being conducted in this field? Please.
I'm ready. I saw this question and I texted my partner because I'm not in it. I don't know anything about it. Machine learning scares me, but he is getting his co-term, so his master's in ITWS, or Information Technology and Web Sciences, which is a school that most looks at machine learning and a number of other things that fall under that. But you can get your, what's the word, focus, or your, I'm going to say focus because I can't remember the actual word, in machine learning. So that's what he is doing.
Concentration.
Yes, concentration. Thank you. And I texted him to ask about research specifically, and we have a supercomputer at RPI, which apparently you can use when you're in that program and you're focusing on machine learning. And I'm not exactly sure what a supercomputer does, but I think they're using it for COVID research right now, if I remember correctly from the news. Okay, yes. And that's like a really big deal, something that you can use as a resource here, which is very exciting. And then you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe our AI program falls under our psychology school, like in Carnegie, which is what I believe is
it's part of the cognitive science program.
Which is in Carnegie, right? I remember from the tour script. Those aren't necessarily in the exact same programs, but you can definitely cross between them if you're interested in research in both of those things. You can go, Olivia.
Yeah, so Yeah, I'm a computer science major. So we actually have an AI and data concentration. You pick one of 4 concentrations: AI and data, games, vision, thing or another, along those lines. And then we have two more that I'm blanking on. I'm in AI and data concentration, which is why I know that one. So cognitive science dual major, as Kate was saying, that's kind of where a lot of AI and machine learning stems from. It's because to replicate, how humans learn in a machine, you have to understand how humans work. And that's why cognitive science is a really great opportunity those things, because it combines psychology, philosophy, and computer science all into one major. And you'd think philosophy wasn't related. There's a lot of ethical in technology today that is really important, and that I find really fascinating, and I love those courses. AI, if you're interested in, that's definitely a great dual major, or you can even just be a computer science major. They do take computer science majors in the cognitive science department. I believe that if you go to the cognitive science department website, they have a list of the research projects they're doing. I know currently my advisor is somewhere Bringsford. He's doing research with AI and machine learning to come up with some sort of gun that, if it's in the proximity of a school or a large gathering, you can't set it off unless there's an extreme danger, like someone else with a weapon. And he's doing that research for different police forces, and also just for people who want to have guns. I don't know a ton of it, but I went to one of his seminars about it. So that's definitely one project, and he does take students on it too. So you can reach out to that department, and there's definitely more opportunities there.
All right, we have a couple more minutes, so I'm going to try to answer as many as we can. If we don't get to all of them, please DM us on Instagram or send us an email, and we'll be happy to answer your questions.
You are really plugging that today.
We're trying to break 2,000, folks, so go follow us. Is the campus an open campus where, although the buildings are closed, I can drive up to and maybe walk around to get a feel for the campus? I'm from out of state. I think we're all from out of state on here too, so we understand. Yes and no. You can absolutely, I don't know what the status of campus is right now. We are definitely closed and the buildings are locked, but I believe you can still walk around if you'd like.
Yeah, you can still walk around.
Yeah, you can definitely still walk around campus.
Okay.
I just went on a run on campus this morning. But yes, you can go into the buildings, and that's true during normal circumstances too. During like off hours when there aren't classes, the buildings are locked. So yeah, but you can definitely walk around. There's no like gates surrounding the campus or anything like that. So definitely, if you're ever in the area, definitely feel free to drive around, walk around. But yeah, you most likely will not.
I will
be able
recommend
to get
walking
access
around.
to the buildings.
A lot of people don't realize this. There's roads around our campus, but the main heart of it, you actually have to walk. There's no real roads you can take to just look out your window. So find a parking lot somewhere and just walk it. I promise it's worth it. Okay, we're going to keep moving here. We already talked about the pep band, soccer, dance. Can you explain more about the capstone project and how it is different for each major? Luke.
Yes. So yeah, like I said, I just took capstone just this spring, and the way it works for mechanical, electrical, industrial, materials, and computer systems engineering is there's an option called multidisciplinary capstone design. So that's the course I took. So all 5 of those majors take the same course. So you're randomly put in a group with students from, well, not randomly, because some projects will require different majors. So the project I got involved in was actually kind of sponsored by a lab affiliated with RPI called CATS, Center for Automation Technology, something, I forget what the S is for, but something along those lines. They do a lot of robotics and automation type research. And our project was building a teach pendant. So essentially a controller, so it's a touchpad with a game pad type controller, a lot of ergonomic design to be able to control these large manufacturing robots. So in my group, there was half mechanical and half electrical engineers. Myself and the rest of the mechanical engineers focused on doing computer-aided design for the casing, which, as I mentioned earlier, was is ultimately going to be plastic injection molded. So having my co-op experience helped out quite a bit for that type of design work. And the electrical engineers in my group did a lot of these circuits, the software that were kind of inside that casing. So that's how capstone, and that's just one project. There are so many different projects, especially in the multidisciplinary capstone design lab. And that particular lab, companies, whether they're directly affiliated with RPI or not, come in and sponsor certain projects. So it's a great transition from academic work to real world industry work, because you're actually working on a project that helps a company or a research project, whatever it may be. So that's just one example, but some engineering majors have their own specific capstone. Like I know, Cassie, you said Aero has their own capstone. So yeah, it does kind of range, but that's kind of the typical one.
A lot of some other engineering courses or curriculum like aeronautical and chemical engineering, you can't really spend the funds to build something that's reasonable from your field. So I had space vehicle design where we designed a space vehicle, but we did not actually build one. So it was slightly different in that sense. We don't have to worry about. We do have to worry about manufacturing, but not actually paying for it and manufacturing it to present to a customer. It's more of the design side of it. And I believe chemical engineering designs their own chemical plants, but they don't actually build them for reasons like money. Okay, we're going to keep going here, people. Sorry, we're going fast. Olivia, are you typing about computer science internships and co-op opportunities?
Yeah, she's on that one.
I answered a different question, but I can say that if you want an intern or a co-op for computer science, most companies that come to RPI are looking for somebody in that field. We have a ton of companies that come to the career fair, like IBM, Microsoft, like big companies like that, and also smaller companies, a ton in the Troy and like Albany area, or we're close to New York City, so a lot of people will travel from New York City for our career fair as well.
Type of instruments in the pep band. Kate, do you want to answer this one?
There are trombones and there are tubas. Cassie, correct me. I don't think we have a guitar.
We don't have guitars, but we are open to it. You might need to bring your own amp, but traditionally we have more of the band, the woodwind, the brass, and the percussion instruments.
Loud.
Yes, loud. That's the only requirement. Are there any study abroad opportunities at RPI? Kate,
yes.
This one too. Thank you.
So the School of Architecture does have the most students who go study abroad. 75% of us go, and we go to Argentina, Italy, India, or China. But you don't have to be an architecture student to study abroad. Our curriculum just kind of built it in a more efficient way because we do have 5 years anyway. But the School of Engineering typically goes to Sydney, Copenhagen, London, and Singapore. If you find your own co-op or study abroad opportunity yourself, the school will help you achieve that. Through the School of Engineering, it is a little different than the School of Architecture. You actually apply to the school you're going to. Versus in the School of Architecture, all your classes are still considered RPI classes. You don't have to worry about transferring credits back and forth, but all of that should happen pretty automatically across the board.
Kate, I think there's also a question about what the arch field is like at RPI.
Arch field?
Arch field?
Is that for me or for the summer arch?
I'm very confused about that, I have to say.
I'm not sure. Architecture, she says.
Okay.
There.
So let's see, the architecture field, let's see. Well, we study a lot of different things. We have a couple of different tracks that we follow. I'm trying to go fast because there's 2 minutes, but we focus on things like sustainability. We'll focus on things like theory and history of architecture. And then we also go into things like HVAC and structures and things like that. So it's a very well-rounded program, which is why I was interested in it. But the most important thing you do, and this is true for most schools, is studio, and that changes all of your 5 years. You'll have 10 total semesters of studio. So it's sort of the biggest thing you do every single semester. That was a very abbreviated version. If you would like a more thorough answer, I definitely email and I'll respond.
So I'm sorry to all the questions we did not get to, but if you want answers for them, please email us either
DM us on the Instagram.
You can always do that too. And you can also email Ariana, who put her email on the bottom there, for a copy of this webinar to listen to it on repeat. if you wanted to. And you can also email directly to ambassadors at ADM Ambassadors as well. Thank you so much for participating and asking us questions. It's so nice to have so many questions. We really appreciate it. And does anyone want to say any last thoughts before we sign off here? No. Okay.
They say
Yeah, see you on campus
on
soon.
campus soon.
Stay healthy.
Follow me
hope.
Insta.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Bye, everybody.